You know me, the fighting freak
Pumpken,
and we're at
Utropeia podcast. Anna Cranberry, Chris Moonjump, and Todd Ogredose. Bill, MrYu video. Seeker, aka Dimsdale.
Fran, Hambone, Hannah, Jimmy Poop and Louie, Jimmy Poop and Louie, Jimmy Poop. Hey, does Mario Kart exist?
Because I'd like to apologize.
Come step up to the plate and meet your match. It ain't no thing. That was easy.
Hello and welcome to the Utropeia podcast. I am your host, Ken. Every morning I'm awake, and I'll probably do it again tomorrow, and by then I'll be re-awaken.
Oh, there it was.
I don't get it.
There it is. It's been 1 week since you've last tuned in, and if it's your first time, welcome. But this is the Utropeia podcast, the podcast where we talk about tropes. And my special guests and co-hosts are, of course, Anna Cranberry.
Hey, everybody. Welcome.
Welcome. Hello there, partner.
Welcome back to the base.
Welcome back to the base, partner. And of course, Bill, MrYu video.
Howdy, hi.
Chris Moonjump. Woo! From the moon. And Todd Ogredose.
Howdy do.
Purdy-do what Nintendo don't.
Stretch.
It is a bit of a stretch.
That's just crossing a line.
But that's another episode, so look up the Stretchman episode of Utropeia podcast. This week we are talking about superpowers, quite possibly one of my favorite subjects. When we get into the superpowers, we're getting into the elemental set. This week it is the fire powers. It's firepower, so not like guns, but like actual combustion and fire. The element.
Flames.
Yes, flames. Hot flames. Hot. Fire! I beg you to burn. Please burn. So do it. That's a good new joke. For this week. But so when I mention the fire powers, is there a particular character that you think of? Is there a certain world or setting? Do you go to comics? Do you go to a movie? What is it that you necessarily think of? This is a new format. It's a brand new day. So we're gonna do something else, and we're gonna do something different. We're gonna also try and limit our examples to maybe 3 minutes. So we'll see how that goes. I'm gonna maybe start, I guess, to kind of give an example, and we'll see how this goes, because editing. So my first thought that I am going to give to you now is the Human Torch from the Fantastic Four. He's a man who is directly on fire, and he flies around. He was hit with cosmic rays. Fantastic Four, you've got a fire guy, you've got Sue Storm, who's kind of air, the Thing is kind of rock, and Reed Richards is loosely based off of water. The Human Torch can fly around with combustion. He can lift things up but not burn them, which is kind of weird.
He turns off his firearms.
He can turn off his firearms. He can turn off his whole body. He doesn't feel the effects of the fire, though, which is kind of interesting. How is it that the fire actually propels him through the air? Does he just, direct the combustion downward? They don't really go into specifics for it. I don't know, but he is directly the first guy. He is the Human Torch. He was, of course, based off of an earlier version of the Human Torch during Captain America days.
Who was a robot.
And I don't know. He's characterized as a bit of a hothead. He's got that anger issue. Yeah. And hot.
Got a fiery personality.
That's right. He's got a short fuse, if you will. Yes. And another one for Mr. Moonjump. The bell's coming back in spicy flavors. But yeah, that's who I went to first. And that was about 2.5 minutes. So there you go. If that gives you an idea. I'm looking at the clock right now, so I've always got a good idea of where we're going. So yeah, if you go over or under, I can basically time that. But everyone gets 3 minutes, and then we can have banter in between. I think that'll work out. But Todd Ogredose, how do you feel? What do you think of first for like a fire-based character or power?
I think of the movie Backdraft.
Really?
Because it's full of firemen. I'm sorry, that was a terrible joke. I'm sorry. No, Mario.
Mario? Oh,
yeah,
Mario
firepower.
Bros. Yeah. He is.
Specifically, firepower. He gets the fire flower, and he gets to throw fireballs after that.
That's right.
Your second basic power-up in any of the Mario games.
After Mushroom,
So it's pretty common, and all it is he changes into, like, orangey clothing and throws around fireballs and the projectile weapon. Mm-hmm. But that's, just saying the words firepower kind of made me think of that. And pretty good basic example. Yeah.
What's interesting is that his fire, he isn't affected by his own fireballs, but other fire stuff does directly hurt him, though.
Yeah, and he could fire it underwater, which is kind of impossible.
Yeah, I mean, SpongeBob kind of broke that rule.
Hot enough. Actually, there is the bullet shrimp. Have you ever heard of that?
That's like a bubble imploding in on itself, and then a shock wave gets thrown out.
But it is also 1,200 degrees at its core.
That's very hot.
And it's kind of like fire.
If fire was made of shrimp.
and underwater.
That might be this week's title. Excellent example for the Mario Brothers. Luigi's fireballs are green, so they have to have a copper base, and that's chemistry.
I always thought they looked like boogers.
Gross.
Science.
Not to be confused with Booger Man.
No, yes, for the Sega Genesis.
Does not throw fire.
Buy a copy of Boogerman on the Sega Genesis. Hosted by Phil Collins.
All right.
Oh, okay.
That's right. I forgot he was in charge of Sega at the time.
Yeah, that's right. And not Genesis the band or his solo career. Anna, who do you think of first for the fires?
Oh god, there's so many fire characters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fired.
Well,
can't think of one.
If you fire yourself, you technically quit.
Pyro from X-Men.
Pyro from X-Men's a great one.
Because I don't know. I'm an X-Men. That's what I thought. It's the fire guy.
Mm-hmm. What's cool about Pyro is that he can't make it. Oh,
sorry. Sorry.
The hot topic about Pyro.
There you
besides
go.
the Gur merchandise.
It's a lot of belts.
Yes.
Zippers everywhere.
a lot of Adventure Time merch.
There's a sale, but it's still really expensive.
Yeah. I don't know if I want all of this Princess Peach in a dominatrix outfit looking stuff. But yeah, Pyro's a great character because he can't make the fire, but he can manipulate it, which is really cool. So he can do different stuff with that. And he can be affected by fire also. So he's not immune to it, he just controls it. Like a guy. What? I don't know, because with other fire-based charures,
just anyone off the street.
Yeah, just like any caveman could control a fire.
This is really demeaning for Pyro.
Well, think about it, because he can't make it, and he's not immune to it. He doesn't coat himself in it, and he's not unaffected by it.
He can manipulate the fire.
Yeah.
A normal dude can't just with his hands change the direction of it.
Have you tried?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm on fire right now.
Yeah. Specifically, yes. I was in the burn ward for quite a while.
That is unfortunate.
Oh
well.
Also a class in a video game for Pyro. So there you go.
Oh yeah, for TF2.
Many games have it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just whoever has the flamethrower, they're the Pyro.
Yeah, basically. But the Pyro isn't affected by his own flames.
Well, I guess the mutant from X-Men really is just outdated. He doesn't have any purpose. Anybody could be Pyro.
Anyone could be a Pyro.
No wonder he's a bad guy.
The first time he controls fire is pretty good, but after that it's
he's
pretty
just a villain from Bobby, gosh.
I get what they're going for, but it's just not well thought out.
We gotta stop this. Okay.
Okay.
Someone else go next.
No, you're right.
No.
You're directly right. Mr. Moonjump from the moon.
I was gonna go for, have you guys ever, I believe there's actually an anime that I haven't seen, but have you ever read a manga called Code Breaker?
I have not read the Codebreaker.
Because the main character in that series actually uses the 9 flames of hell.
That's a lot of flames.
And yeah, and
It's at least 9.
Well, I was going to ask, is it anything like Code Lyoko? And you answered my question.
no, that is just hell. It's, like the whole thing. That's what Code Lyoko is. Metaphor. For hell.
Continue.
But yeah, Codebreaker.
Okay.
Solid.
But yeah, Codebreaker basically he is originally contracted to basically hunt down and purge evil, so serial killers, things like that, and use his special magic powers to kill people. But that's the one I really thought of because each of the 9 flames actually has a different ability in it. So, like some of them are actually so hot they're invisible, or will distort air, or some of them, it was really kind of an interesting implementation. It's kind of one that stuck with me of like, and they actually really thought out what they were going to do with him.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a bit of a darker manga, and then it gets kind of shonen-y for a little bit, but then the ending of it actually winds up being pretty interesting.
And what's cool is that fire is kind of more associated with, well, let me go into it. Devils, the devil, the devil, demons, the devil, the Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub, hell, purgatory.
Sequel to Purge Anarchy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sequel to one of the year where hell's legal.
Well, yeah, because if we go by 40K rules, fire makes everything clean, including entire planet surfaces.
I believe that's called a bomb.
Oh no, it's just fire.
Or Code Lyoko.
Or cool.
Yes, it is.
Also, maybe fire from space.
Space fire?
Space fire.
It is space fire.
Like a solar flare. If you will.
If you will.
I choose.
Oh,
not to.
okay.
Okay.
Bill, what do you choose for your first thoughts for
There's a couple that I would think of, but I'm gonna go with the Mega Man.
Mega Man?
Yeah, Fireman and Heatman.
Oh,
Probably.
Fireman! He was in Backdraft, right?
Yeah, he was in.
Gonna nail that right into the ground.
There we go. Soft.
Fahrenheit.
You're just reading the Fahrenheit of the joke. I'm just completing your thought. That was a good one.
I was actually referencing the game.
Okay.
Fahrenheit, but that's better.
But we should let Bill finish.
Yes.
I think you were going in a better direction than I was. I like Mega Man.
Yeah, I like Mega Man.
Yeah.
They shoots the fireballs and the
shoots.
flamethrowers.
And have some of the worst levels ever.
Oh.
It's true.
I'm just saying. Fuck
Interesting
Heatman's
fact,
jumping.
though. What is it? Heat Blaster? I don't remember what Heatman's weapon was. But it's the
Atomic
first one-
fire.
Atomic fire. Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. It was the first Mega Man weapon to actually have the charge up. So
Yeah.
Charges and then you kill Woodman in like one hit.
in one hit, yeah, and then glitch out of the room.
Our best experience ever playing Mega Man 2.
Mega Man 2, everybody. Go out and buy it on the Wonder Swan.
And then don't use all your crash bombs on the boss rush.
Yeah,
Ready?
people.
That's just helpful information.
It
really.
is.
Not that I have any bad experience with that or anything. I'm just throwing that one out there. Maybe for someone in the audience.
Someone who could use it. Like you, dear listener. Like you. Don't make the same mistakes I did. But but like the good, the bad, and the ugly, it's time to move on to our second part. Because we're a 3-parter for this. First thoughts, does it well and does it poorly. So that leaves us to the does it well section. I'm gonna go in the reverse order. So, Mr. Bill-san Sama Senpai, who do you think does it well or does it well?
I have a feeling I'm going to be stealing Chris's on this, but I'm going to go with One
Oh,
Piece,
One Piece.
One Piece.
One Piece.
One Spice.
which is Fire Fist Ace. Is a really cool character. I think we've explained on the podcast once before the difference between the Devil Fruit powers.
I think so, yes.
But yeah, so Aces is a Logia type, so that means he turns into the element itself.
Okay.
He can't be burned by things. He can't actually be touched by anything because he can just become actual fire.
Mm.
So matter would pass through him if he chose to let it. And then we also have, Marco was the Phoenix.
Okay.
And I think he was a blue flame, so but he was the zone type, so he would actually turn into a fire.
Okay.
And then there's a character later on, Aku Inu, who's magma,
Magma.
Yeah.
and he's also a Logia type, or is he Paramecia?
No, he's a Logia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he would be burned if he was Logia type, probably. So yeah, One Piece I think is the best example of any elemental or interesting powers.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to just do a story with the powers, I would at least recommend checking out some of the One Piece power sets.
Because
I think they do most of them very well, or at least interesting.
absolutely, we've had a few conversations. I think we go into it a lot in the Stretchman powers because One Piece, Monkey D. But the thing that's cool about One Piece is that they stay at the same level relatively, and then it's just imagination from there on out for how you utilize it, which is very cool. Is there? Yeah.
Unfortunately for Ace, he doesn't have anything crazy creative. He's one of the more powerful Logias they consider, and he's in a very straightforward manner. You just burn everything. What he does use it to power his jet engine boat though. That's
Yeah, I don't usually see fire powered people using it as a fuel source, as being the combustion in the combustion engine.
Yeah.
Using it for practical uses.
Actually powering.
Because if you can control fire, would you choose to use it for practical reasons?
Guess I don't have to pay my gas bill anymore. Just some normal effing guy. Just I'm never cold now. Time to move to Alaska.
I he still goes and works a regular day job, but it's man, better throw some coal on the fire. I don't need it.
Foosh.
My hands are very warm.
Another day at the office.
I could live in Canada my whole life. I would have no problems. Shout out to our listeners in Canada. All one of them.
Canada.
Our fond and native land. Todd Ogredose. Wait a minute. Is that the correct? I don't know. We'll get it correct.
I went first last
Did you go
time.
first last time? Then
I did.
It's gotta be Moonjump.
All right.
I'll just wait in the waitings then.
Well, I was technically first last time, but we'll fix it. All right. Sorry. Go on.
No, that's fine. The one that I actually would strongly recommend everyone kind of go out and read, because especially on superpowers, this series of novels is fantastic, and it's called the Hard Magic series.
Oof.
Or the Grim Noir Chronicles.
You could get a magic softener to fix that, though.
It's true. But it's written by Larry Correia, and it actually deals with basically around the time of World War II, people began to just as World War I, World War II were coming around, all of a sudden people began to gain magic powers. And just kind of randomly manifesting smaller, gradual, small numbers at first, but that leads to World War II is still everyone fighting Hitler, but Hitler now can resurrect zombies because he's a powerful necromancer who has control over, he's a rare what they call a pale horse.
Okay.
And he can resurrect. He can resurrect the dead and use that to fight America and Germany. And you've got people who can use gravity, who can manipulate gravity. You've got teleporters, you've got plague casters, you've got fire and ice people and everything else. But their fire people are actually really interesting because in the series, your fire actives are primarily actually get meaningful employment, either working in steel mills or the most common way of transit in the universe is by dirigible.
Yeah.
And so their job is not actually to make the machine run. Their job is to make sure that fires don't spread to the rest of the ship, because they use hydrogen as the best fuel source for being able to get lift.
Mm-hmm.
But the pyros are actually there to make sure that none of that shit catches fire. So it's one of those, like, it's interesting to see what a world full of superpowered people actually get used for. Like, the main character in that story is Jake Sullivan, and he's a heavy. And heavies are the derogatory term for basically gravity users. But heavies are primarily used in the construction field as basically human forklifts. Just like the pyro guys are basically, their primary thing is to be firemen. And yeah, it's one of those, it's interesting to see both how they utilize their powers in kind of a mundane fashion, like how the world would operate if a significant amount of people had superpowers, because it's 1 in 1,000.
Yep.
But yeah, it was just kind of very interesting to see what actually how they would be used in regular circumstances as well. And
don't let it get to me. Just go creep. No, I agree.
And especially once the lines begin to blur, it becomes very interesting. So
yeah, cool, very cool. Yeah. Anna.
Hello.
Hello. What do you think?
Hello, son. What came to mind for me was Game of Thrones, actually.
Khaleesi.
Yes. I think it's really interesting how there's a lot of different representations of, not necessarily fire powers, I guess, but the fact that, Daenerys has dragons, she is not hurt by fire. And then there's also, like, the Fire Priestess.
Yeah, that's right.
Where there's kind of, like, a religion-based firepower that's not really controllable. I'm still kind of confused by it. It seems pretty damn shady. But, yeah, it's just a lot of really interesting variations on firepower.
Yeah.
Rather than just, I'm mad, pow, pow, pow.
Yeah, rather than just shooting fire, they utilize it for scrying, and also maybe being just immune to it, and just not manipulating it, really. I don't really see that.
Controlling dragons, theoretically, you could.
Or like just little lizards with flamethrowers. Yeah, that's all a dragon is. To find out this way, internet.
So sorry you had to find out this way.
And maybe Chase when we talk about dragons later for a general. But now that universe is really cool because it also does like there's a resurrection part in there too. I think with one of the people who follows the sacred fire, if you will, R'hllor, the red god, the god of the sun and sacred fire. They have like sort of a phoenix thing going on in there too, and we haven't really tapped into the phoenix too much. But being born again out of the ashes, if you will. But that's a big part of the fire usage too. Game of Thrones is a really good example. So thank you. And, we're not even halfway through, and Anna is almost out. So that's a pretty good sign. Burning the candle at both ends. Okay. Ding, 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 ding. Todd, who do you think does it good?
My turn
Yay!
now.
It's actually happening.
I know no one can really play it anymore, but it's another video game example, and it was City of Heroes.
Yay!
Fire was kind of like used across the board for a lot of the classes in City of Heroes.
Yeah.
But it was used really kind of creatively in a bunch of them. There was like the blaster set would, hurl fireballs and stuff like that, but they could also make it rain fire, and the controllers would create essentially just like cages and walls of fire around your enemies, and the melee fighters would like encase their hands with it, or they'd create like fire swords or something like that. And it was all just like as a general use of the firepower. There was some really creative of ways that they used it in the game. So,
Very broad use of it.
yeah,
too.
and it wasn't anything like horribly clever, but it was like really good, solid uses for a firepower that didn't get really old. And as you went on, you unlocked more and more and stuff like that. But there was a lot of like really cool uses for it. And the other example I had thought of was Pokemon.
Yep.
Specifically, Ponyta and Rapidash.
Okay.
Because they just had really cool designs that integrated fire into it. Because a lot of the fire Pokemon just have like fire shooting out of them, or they're made of like lava or something like that. I thought especially for like an early generation Pokemon, those two just had kind of an interesting way of using fire, like the fiery manes and stuff like that for being like a horse Pokemon. So I thought they were worth mentioning in the whole thing. I thought they were pretty cool.
Did you know that they might be based off of the myth of the nightmare, actually? Like the fiery state from hell?
That would make sense. They have such dark, evil eyes.
Well, all horses are evil.
Horses are terrible
that's
people.
The goal.
This is very true. Don't trust it. They'll bite you.
Unless they can talk.
They might be the incredible Mr. Ed.
It's alright.
Peanut butter in
They
his
wanted
teeth.
for City Heroes, actually one of the first big villains you fight was Frostfire.
Oh yeah, he was like,
That was a guy who was able to manipulate both ice and fire spell powers. So his he took over an office building, like is where you go to fight him, and it's just like there will be columns of ice on one side of the room, on the other side of the room it's all on fire and burnt. It was actually interesting because very rarely do you see people combine those two types.
yeah,
of
I forgot
powers.
about Frostfire. He was a cool character.
I dig it. I guess my example for who does it well, I went to Liz Sherman from Hellboy, the pyrokinetic. I really like I really like the Hellboy series. And what was cool about Liz Sherman is that she didn't like just, start fires mentally, but that she also had like the spirit of the very first fire from Prometheus. That was technically what she had. She had this ability to have this like almost spiritual fire. It was like this radiant energy almost burning at the core of her soul. And what I liked about Liz Sherman is not necessarily her powers, but that they went into like her mental state too, about her dreams and about how she was afraid to hurt other people, about like controlling it and getting very zen later on in the book when you get into BPRD and BPRD Hell on Earth. She talks about like, really finding her center, and she tries to give it up at one point in time eventually too. And I think it's kind of cool to have like a character actually like, take in that mental sort of state of what their power is doing, rather than just saying, well, it's a fire person, so they have to be angry, like Hothead from, or whatever that character's name was from Static Shock, who was just an angry guy with red hair. You know the guy I'm talking about.
And that racist.
Yes.
Was he a racist?
I don't know. Why do they always have red hair?
Ooh, that's right. Why do all of the fire users just have red hair? That is kind of racist against gingers. When you think about it. And is ginger a derogatory term? I will send out a letter of apology.
Uh-oh.
It's all right. As a representative of the ginger people, I forgive you.
Moon pardon of approval.
You have been moon pardoned
Thank you.
by the moon princess. You're welcome.
Thank you, pardoner.
When did we adapt this Wild West theme for this
I don't
episode?
know. Can I just if we did Utropia catch-up, I would have said I watched the whole Dollars trilogy, and I've been watching like Good, Bad, and the Ugly for the last 3 nights, so it's just kind of creeping into my vernacular. Anyway, that's my 3 minutes. Anna, when...
Wake up!
Guys.
There are a
You
lot
okay?
of... Yeah, I'm just choking on my own fire. Instead of my own spit. Because I spit hot fire. Thank you.
Well,
Megan.
you are a pumpkin golem, so it makes sense that you're at least half jack-o'-lantern.
You got it right, Jack. You did it.
Did it.
Can't hold a candle to
Good.
it.
Oh, nice. Nice. My pie.
Not ice,
my little.
fire.
So, look, there's a lot of poor examples of fire. Like, the game that I'm spitting right now is a really bad example of fire that could be used or utilized. So, if I mention, like, a bad example of a fire user, do you think of something that, like, doesn't really meet your standards or expectation, or just something that doesn't sit well with you for, like, a particular fire user or person who, controls that? Or is associated with it? Sorry.
I have one very dear to me.
Okay.
And it's complicated how I feel. Because it's a character I love because it is exactly the shitty stereotype
Okay, go.
of a fire character,
Yes.
which is Wheeler.
I had that written down, too.
Oh shit! There went one of my
Wheeler is the
examples.
biggest piece of shit, and I love him for it.
He was the most interesting character on that whole show.
Captain Planet is supposed to be about this group of kids trying to, help Mother Earth and support the planet.
Right.
Wheeler's just a piece of shit. He's got the firepower. He's just angry.
American.
He doesn't care about anything. He's super American.
Wasn't he like from the Bronx or
He
something?
was. Yes.
He was.
He does not deserve to have a magic ring. But he does for some reason.
Especially when they could burn everything.
I want to say that
ground.
literally in the first episode of Captain Planet, he sets their jet on fire. Like, everyone's getting used to their rings. Kwame is the most responsible. He's like, I could feed an entire village with this ring, to make a farm. He's the only one that has a thought like that. Wheeler just sets the plane on fire. The only reason they do that is to set up, I forget the water girl's name.
Oh, yeah.
But she uses the ring to put out the fire.
Gee?
Yeah.
Sounds right.
Something like that, yeah. But yeah, I mean, Wheeler's exactly the stereotype. Reckless.
And Mati did
angry.
nothing.
Didn't feel
Hey,
bad.
at least he had heart.
His heart was
That's
in
right.
it.
His heart was in the only place that it could be. In his chest.
In his chest.
Nice.
Yes.
It was easy. It was far too easy. No, I had him down as my example for the poor man, who can't do it at all.
But it's almost so bad it's good.
Yeah. Did he have red hair?
Yes.
Gosh.
He did.
He did have red hair.
See, that's racist. That you're not gonna find a ginger in the Bronx. Let's be honest here.
You could. You gotta be real tough, man. It's a tough town. Especially in the 90s.
Well, and it's too bright.
It is, unless you're a fireman. A man with fire.
And not in
That's
backdraft.
right. Draft to the lab again. But you know what? Mr. Moonjump, who do you think is the po' boy in this po' boy sandwich of fire?
Okay, here was one that I always found really weird.
Okay.
Why in the Transformers franchise do they give a shit ton of people fire-based weapons?
Yeah.
They're robots.
Yeah.
Metals melt.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you concentrate fire on it for
Yeah.
20
Yeah,
minutes.
well,
And here's the
they're
thing,
Transformers. They got a lot of
It's
time.
because you say that, but like they even did it, like even when it's used throughout the series, like with what the hell is the name of the ant? Inferno. They totally had his toy. But here's the thing, because he would like shoot fire at people and they'd be like, oh no, and then they'd immediately stop using that and start using real guns because that actually works. But hey, they got fire. Like when the Dinobots have freaking fire, is that because the other dinosaurs were kind of suspicious?
Well,
And so you need to back them. Like, it's just one of those, like, oh, everyone needs a flamethrower. Well, let's give them flamethrowers.
I do want to bring up with the Inferno example. He was a fire ant.
That is true.
that's true.
So there you have that.
True science fact, though. Fire ants not made of fire.
I did not know that.
You can't make a s'more with them.
It's true. It is a disappointing reality.
I am going to look that up on Wikipedia right now.
Go to wikipedia.com and look up a thing. Wikipedia, giving you answers. Sponsor our show, please.
Give us money.
Give us money.
They can't do that. Have you seen how many times they beg for money on their own page?
Oh, that's true. Pay taxes.
It's like taking...
Well, I don't have any money to give, but I do have this ring of fire.
That's true. I fell into it.
And it burns, burns.
I mean, to touch back on your example with the dinosaurs, I mean, fire is like the most primal power you can get other than just like raging the F
Are you
out.
telling me dinosaurs could breathe fire?
Well, they were dragons.
Well, dinosaurs are dragons.
That's true.
Yeah.
And as we all know, dragons are just lizards with flamethrowers.
Science.
And there
That's
were
true.
dinosaurs in Brooklyn.
I love Daisy.
Oh,
I want to be with her, but I have to know that.
King Koopa.
Man, it's all coming full circle.
Like a ring of fire.
A ring of fire.
And it just goes down, down, down.
The flames will go higher. Like, Todd Ogredose, what do you think? He does it poorly.
I feel bad because I never really have solid examples for this. But I think of, like you guys were saying, the stereotypical bad guy who throws fireballs. Yep. Just like, oh, I'm the bad fire
I'm
guy.
a wizard.
Pew, 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 pew.
One of the enemies in Mighty Max.
Ooh, the Skullman?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to
Fire.
say Mad Men.
Yep. The Madman.
Fun fact.
You can catch that on AMC.
Don Draper.
Remember that scene where Don Draper is about to give a business idea and he just shoots fireballs?
I would watch the shit out of that show.
That would be
And
the
it needs to
best
happen.
show.
I think it's going on the title card.
I guess the only other example I can give is like Flame Hyenard from Mega Man X7, who really didn't use a lot of fire powers. He just ran in circles, cloned himself, and screamed "Burn to the burn to the burn, burn to burn, burn to the ground."
It's a sick burn.
He did do that.
So yeah, bad guys who lamely throw fireballs and screaming hyena robots. That's all I got. Sorry.
Well, I mean, if you just don't utilize it, if you're just like, I don't know, as sort of a parallel, like King Koopa or Bowser, does he do anything else interesting other than just breathe it?
He shoots fireballs.
Yeah, but does he do anything else with it?
He turns it into his minions.
Oh, okay.
He usually has a palace surrounded by lava.
That's true.
So I'm
Or
going
hell,
to assume...
if you're in 3.
Devils, demons, the devil, Lucifer, Satan, Beelzebub.
Okay. Yes. The hounds.
Ooh, hellhounds.
Hellhounds. Maybe they breathe fire too.
Maybe they do.
He's probably immune to fire.
He falls into, in the first games, he falls into it, and then he just
Then
kind
why
of
does he surround himself by lava?
I don't know.
He's setting himself up
Because
for
he is not a smart man.
Well, it
Yeah,
obviously
that's
never
true.
kills him. And in Super Mario 3D Land, you knock him into the lava multiple times and he just
Wasn't
jumps
there a
back
game where he comes back as Dry Bowser?
out. The Mario
No.
Kart? I don't know any others.
No, it was one of like the DS games.
It was like Super New Mario Wii Tutorial Edition?
E-World.
E-World? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because he comes out of the fire and he's like, I'm a skeleton now. As we all know, a skeleton is just freed from its terrible prison. So that was probably the happiest Bowser's ever been in his entire life.
Teleported
That's
out.
right.
It's true.
Oh man, a skeleporting Bowser. The best. That's
Yeah.
the best future we can hope for. But the greatest future we can hope for is the opinion of Bill MrYu video.
Oh, by the way, real quick,
Disappointing.
it actually was New Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario 3D
Thank
Land.
you. Boom.
There we go.
Referenced. Referenced.
Referenced. Okay, so I'm going to kind of jump on Chris's here. In the Universal Century of
Ooh.
Gundam, there was a specific variant of the GM mobile suit, which is the RGM 79. Oh, I can't remember the call sign for it, but yeah, they give it a flamethrower. Like,
In space.
Well, yeah. Space fire. That's pretty good.
I don't know. Actually, it might have been the cold climate type that had it. Which makes a little sense because if they, to war act that, if it was actually not used as a weapon and as a tool, it's a good example. But I'm gonna assume they were like, no, flamethrowers.
Would
that's
totally
cool.
do a thing to the. It would warm up their pilots, and they'd say, "We're far too sweaty in here," and then they'd give up.
Oh, I'm quite uncomfortable inside this cockpit. I think I'll open the hatch. Oh no, fire everywhere.
There's only more heat now.
All my chocolate's melting.
Man.
Yeah. Actually, another example, it's just because it doesn't make sense just in, like I said, with the robots as, what's his name from not G Gundam. Gundam Wing.
The dragon guy?
Yeah.
The
Gundam.
double
Wu-Fei?
dragon? Yes.
Yeah, Wu-Fei. Yes, the double dragon. But, I guess it kind of acts as a smoke screen for mobile suits, but I don't see, like I said, you have to kind of, really have that fire concentrated on a piece of metal to get it to melt. I guess it could mess up the optics.
For, thermal
break some
scans, I
glass,
guess, if,
I don't know.
that's what you use to, detect other robots. Because, a lot of fire, a lot of jets and stuff. So if you have, a wall of fire, maybe you could, get out of there.
Yeah.
Maybe fire's just cool.
Maybe. Well, as a concept.
No, well, yeah.
Not temperature.
That would be an
It
oxymoron.
would be.
I'm getting a little burnt out by fire.
Oh, it's good.
We'll just
Took
need
a long
to
time
torch
for
it up
that
a little.
Ooh.
Yeah. I guess what we're finding out here is that robots with flamethrowers are kind of useless if they're just using it to attack each other.
Oh yeah, as kind of a little bit of searching, the Doctor's high mobility that they give the flamethrower to is proven in the series to do absolutely nothing.
Good for him.
It's generally ineffective against most mobile suits due to their armor. But it can set
There we
people
go.
on the ground on fire, which is
Well, yeah.
apparently what it was used
Yeah,
for.
I guess
And that's what's
Killing
really
a human's
important.
easy when you're a giant robot, Chris Moonjump.
With an enormous
This is very
flamethrower.
true.
Yeah, that's,
Very true.
that makes sense.
Okay, my example, and you know what? Just this show in general for Shaolin Showdown. Kimiko from Shaolin Showdown. You know why I don't like her? Because I could never tell which one was her every time I watched the show. Yeah, she always changed how she looked. So every time a new show happened, I was like, who the hell is that character? I don't necessarily know if she used it in an interesting way. I guess it was we haven't even talked about firebenders once this entire episode, but we'll get to it.
Saker's not here. Though.
Yeah, that's right. Dimsdale's not here, so
We could exclusively talk about
we probably
characters from Avatar and cover all these tracks probably.
We probably could. I mean, we've got a
When you have an entire class
Race
of
of
people,
people.
an
Yeah.
entire race of people that can manipulate fire.
and they use that in cool and interesting ways too. But for Kimiko, I guess she didn't really exemplify fire at all. She didn't really She just kind of screamed a little bit because it was Grey Delisle, and she's kind of good at that actually. For the shouty bits. She wasn't really a hothead. I don't really remember too much about her character other than she was just the girl and she used
was
fire.
a technophile a little bit. She always had something new to mess around with.
Yeah.
And she was big into fashion because,
The girl.
Because girl.
But yeah, other than that, yeah, she was kind of just there.
Well, this is assuming that Shaolin Showdown to begin with is this
Yeah, to
solid
be fair,
show.
there is nothing about any of those characters that really stands out.
No.
One of them's from Texas.
That was the Earth guy named Clay.
Yeah,
And then one
named
guy's from
Clay.
Mexico, I believe.
Come on now.
That was the dude from Brazil.
I want to say Raymundo.
Yeah, his name was Raimundo.
Raimundo.
Which is the dad in
Mundo.
Rocket Power. Yep.
Yeah.
He remembers when the squid beef did. And then there was Omi, the worst possible thing about that show.
Oh, no. The worst possible thing about that show, I'm sure, is his cousin in the sequel.
I
Ping
know.
pong.
Yeah, here we go.
The wood user, which is why.
To start with, I don't know why they made another series.
Money.
But before
So preface it with that.
before it actually came out, We had a friend describe, like, it was some sort of summary about, like, the new series of it.
Mhm.
I literally thought he was fucking with me when he said the name of the new character was Ping Pong.
Because it looks just like this kid from China, maybe, who also has the same accent, but he's from France. But his name is Ping Pong.
What?
Some of the worst writing on this show.
It's pretty bad.
Don't watch it.
Don't watch it,
What?
but we did, so I'm sorry.
France? China?
China.
What?
That's right.
We'll watch it so you don't have to.
That's
Ping pong from
Yeah,
Frida.
that's
Right. I apologize if I've offended
letter of
our
apology
fan
from
base
Anne.
that really enjoys bad shows.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Digging it deeper. I enjoy bad shows. I am sorry to me.
That's the lesson. Okay, so lesson. So we've gotten through a bunch of good examples. We found out that fire is, kind of useless when it's robots using it against each other, and that mostly people with red hair have fire, which is incredibly racist, and that it's pretty lame when you don't really utilize it too much. So is there anything that you guys want to talk about? I have let me launch into this for a little second. Like, most fire users are hot-headed or angry. We kind of went over that. But where does the heat actually come from? Like, is it their body heat? Are they always overheated, or are they always cold? Like, how does that affect them mentally?
Ooh.
I think
All right,
Chris
go
has his
for it,
hand up.
Chris.
Okay. Did you guys play
I haven't
Parasite
played
Eve?
that, actually.
All right. So in Parasite Eve, they actually go through the whole thing about the concept of mitochondrial overload, where mitochondria are the power sources that exist in your cells, and if they were all to activate in a human body at once, basically you could generate many, many kilojoules of heat energy as a result of their activation. They're actually they never operate at full capacity, but this is even from scientific study, but it goes a lot into kind of the science fiction realm. But they talk about it in Parasite Eve because basically the mitochondrial Eve sings a song that causes everyone basically in most of Times Square to catch fire as a result of just burning from their internal mitochondria.
This girl is on fire.
So there actually could be like a biological basis for it.
For human combustion.
Spontaneous human combustion.
Oh.
Yeah, although most of those are people leaving cigarettes on chairs and stuff.
Yeah, more or less. Self-immolation.
I've watched quite a few documentaries, Chris. I'm sure some crazy people disagree with you, Chris.
What if their skeletons are made of fire, and they skeleport out of their body and just catch the meat sack
That's true.
on fire?
It's just burn it on the way out. Like, well,
Yeah.
don't need this anymore.
I mean, fire's not completely intangible, so I think the science.
I think Todd's a
checks
scientist,
out.
No,
and he
you're
knows
right.
exactly what he's talking about.
It's
I
true.
think
think it
that's
is.
canon.
He's got his PhD.
In skeletology.
That's super canon.
Skeleton doctor. Todd Ogredose.
It's mega laser cannon.
That's Nick
Ooh,
Cannon.
It is. Anna, do you have anything else to Mariah carry us on to the next subject?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Just in general.
Okay.
Is there a fire character named Ash?
In
Anything?
anything?
Does he?
They're by theory
Like, I
of
feel like there
relativity,
has
or
to
not
be,
relative,
but
by
I don't know
average,
of
by
any. 'Cause
average.
Because the only two I'm
yeah.
thinking of are Pokemon and, of course, Evil Dead.
Well, Ash doesn't have... No, neither of those are like fire characters.
He has a boomstick.
Not fire.
It kind
It's
of
a gun.
is. But a gun is fire that shoots metal.
Alright, so anyone with a gun...
Is a
Fire
fire user?
manipulation.
That's awesome.
Oh my god. This is not even... This is not okay.
There's gotta be. We're gonna.
Okay.
It's pretty much a tiny
Ash is an
robot
American
with...
comic book character created by Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmintine. Published in Vent Comics about firefighter who gains superpowers
A firefighter!
from time-displaced regeneration
So it's
device
Backdraft.
from a possible
What
apocalyptic
irony.
future.
Mm-hmm.
What irony to be a firefighter who can only create more fire.
Well, I don't know. You can cancel it out.
Hey, Guy Montag.
He draws his
He is a
power from
fireman.
flames and fire inside his body, which can reach temperatures of 1,260 degrees
Ooh,
Fahrenheit.
that's a fever.
Wait, is Ash his real name, or is that just like a code name?
Maybe both.
I was just curious because I didn't know of any.
It just says Ash.
It makes sense.
So
Ash
because
may
he's
know more
code name.
questions.
Tell me no more lies.
Yes.
The boys are in the bathroom asking Bill MrYu video if he's got anything else.
Oh, well,
Huh?
what?
Now, is there, go for it.
And just because you had brought it up, but in the Mega Man Archie comics, and I don't know if this is canon with the games, but Heatman is unable to cool down. Like he's constantly able to feel the sensation of heat. Because he makes a comment to Mega Man to ask Flame Man sometime if he's always warm too.
Huh.
And I believe that's when Mega Man is infected with the virus and he just puts him down right then and there. So
Well, that was
Yeah,
quickly
that was
put
kind of a
down.
dark arc.
Did he tell him that he needed to cool off?
and then hits him with
To
bubble
let
wrap.
off some steam.
Yes.
Good one.
Yeah.
Chill out.
Cool.
Stoked.
That stoked is a good one, actually.
Dog.
Yeah, think about it.
Yeah, you do. Cole's story.
I like
Oh,
cool.
we're not doing that.
Has been said so many times.
Cool running.
Oh,
Cold
that's a
running.
John Candy of a joke. He's dead.
Well, Jamaica's kind of like
Sounds
fire.
a coal engine.
Well, if we're not jerks about it, then yeah. Future bobsled racing with fire users would be very fun.
Steampunk bobsled racing.
Bobsled punk? Well, like,
Jamaican me crazy.
I think we've used these before. I still like them.
I think we've
we
used
have.
all of them before.
What was mine? Actually, I was gonna hit on Pokemon a little bit too. The Charmander, actually, that evolution. Because if its tail goes out, then it dies. Because its tail is the flame of life.
Dead.
Yep. And that's kind of interesting, having like a terminal based power, or like something that kind of like limits your lifespan, or like having your own mortality connected to an object. I think that's a cool trope in itself, actually. Kind of like the Dorian Gray mirror, if you want to like go super classical about it, but that's more immortality, I guess. Anyway, no, just that it's like the eternal flame, and we kind of have a different meaning for the eternal flame if you think about it. For like, is it the Vietnam Memorial? I think for the eternal flame that we have always burning.
I don't know.
Oh, thank
No,
you.
John F.
Yes, it's
Kennedy.
John F. Kennedy. A genuine letter of apology for not knowing that. American education. Sorry.
There's the Olympics too.
Yeah, there's the Olympics with the passing of the torch.
There's also the song by the
Oh,
Bengals.
I don't know that one. Maybe we can link it.
Goodness gracious.
Great balls
Great balls.
of fire.
Balls.
Balls.
Fire.
But I thought balls. I thought Charmander was a really. I can't believe that is honestly setting us off this much. Is a good like sort of user of that sort of thing, and then when you get up to Charizard, it's just this lizard with a flamethrower, of course, but its fire is so powerful that it can't go out. Of course, that's all a dragon is. We've gone over that. It's done.
Dragons, dinosaurs.
It's canon.
It legitimately uses
It's true.
flamethrower
It
as
might
an
be one
attack
of the,
too.
after Ember, it might be one of the first ones. But Todd, did I let you go? Actually, for bring it
No.
all home, man.
Sorry about that. Two things I kind of wanted to touch on. One of them, Chris talked kind of about on his super science rant, and that's just fire characters that are hot to the touch, that just like run hot, essentially. Like their blood's just always kind of boiling. But I like the idea of and this is gonna go back, even though we were making all those Mr. Freeze references. This goes back to about 30 episodes when we were talking about ice powers. Yeah. So we were talking about how an ice character, an interesting take on them would to make them a hot-blooded character, to make them very impulsive. Where here would be the counter argument to that. That would be a fire character who's very calm and relaxed.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, really like a focused character.
Of that, Zhang from Avatar.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's a character who regretted having fire power and was more about controlling and taking away fire than creating it.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, because he was like, he was cool.
Broom for our hair.
He was
or
rad.
hot or whatever.
He was rad as all hell.
He was radical. But I always thought that was kind of cool. At some point, I wrote a story, and it had the main character. There's a group of elemental users, and the main character was a fire elemental, and he was a very calm and quiet character. I always thought it was just kind of a neat concept.
Because we've talked about it always seems to be a redheaded character who's mad all the time. So having it be like a really calm little girl who's an Eskimo or something like that might be interesting. I guess Eskimo is a derogatory term. Maybe I owe another letter of apology. I don't know. Some people think that is. That's interesting to me. I think Inuit is the correct term.
Inuit?
Inuit.
I knew it.
Oh.
Knew it.
I didn't know it. I'm sorry.
I was more offensive, but that's
Something called Poopin' Louie.
Louie. You can listen to him on the Utropeia podcast.
Actually, because Todd mentioned it. Sorry,
yeah, go for it.
Man. Over. But and we kind of mentioned how Avatar, you can really bring it up. But that was one of the things I really liked about it. Is you see a lot of the firebenders, at least in like the royal family. You have anger as their source, but Zuko finds out that actually that doesn't have to be where you draw that power, and he actually becomes more powerful when they figure out like the sun. Firebending, where you're at peace with yourself. And
I figured he was just fueled by honor.
Yes.
As one of my does it well examples, I had Iroh actually, and he mentions lightning as a subset of fire, which is the first time I've ever seen that. To be honest, which is really cool. And he didn't discover lightning, of course. I mean, only Ben Franklin did that. Read a book.
He invented lightning.
Yes.
Read it.
Read it. Ben Franklin, inventor of lightning.
True.
But Iroh found out
I wonder how the idea struck him.
I'm sure you got a sure you got a charge out of it.
It was a flash of inspiration.
We're not even doing fire anymore.
No.
Now that's the key.
That was good.
That's a good.
I get it,
I
Todd.
see notes what you did there. He's on $100 bill. Anyway, thanks,
I got
Bill.
it.
$100.
If you don't like
too.
our jokes, tell us to go fly a kite.
That's nice.
Bifocals.
What was cool about Iroh is that he observed a different style of bending and applied fire to that, which was water bending, so he could redirect the lightning through his body if it was ever shot at him. And that's also maybe an interesting way to kind of do a take on an elemental power. So if you have like an earth user who's like very strong and just like starts sending up chunks of stuff, maybe have like a fire user doing stuff like that, just raising walls of fire and like building armor out of it and like being a big badass out of it, or flying around on it like an air user or wind user might do. I guess that's kind of what the Human Torch is doing. So you know what, a little bit redeemed, Johnny Storm. You ever think Johnny Storm and Johnny Blaze just look at each other and say, maybe we should have had different names?
Like Ash.
Well,
like,
well, one of the things.
and the Johnny Blaze screams because his
Nicolas
head
Cage.
is on fire.
Together.
Also, that's specifically why he
They
should
can
be
be the
screaming.
Blail Storm.
The Blail Storm.
There you go.
The Crisco.
Oh, the one thing I was going to mention that would be something interesting to use on that front is actually I think I touched on it on a previous podcast, but Pele, who's actually the god of fire in the Hawaiian
soccer star.
indigenous religion. Correct. Yes.
Pele!
But Pele is the goddess of fire and also the goddess of life, and basically it's because for them, the only way for trees and things to actually grow
Warmth.
is for a lot of things, like here in the area, we do a lot of brush, like controlled brush fires, because it's some of the only ways that some plants can actually release their seeds is actually by burning. That's how the seed pods are activated. So we do that here in the area to kind of control it. But I think that would be one that would be interesting to look at too. Is like you were saying, the fire is the kind of the fire of life as well, because it does have kind of some interesting basis in reality.
No, and that's going into the Kelvin scale, I guess. And I'm gonna say this real quick in a minute, and then we're gonna wrap it up. The Kelvin scale measures just heat in general, and absolute zero is nothing lives. There is no heat, there is no warmth, not a single atom will move. And then the higher up, the Kelvin scale goes, the hotter it gets. So that does say something about fire being life, and kind of providing movement and just energy to the universe in general. So if you want to, interpret it that way, then go for it. No, this has been a good episode. Very well timed, actually. I dig it. No, thank you very much for tuning in and listening to us. Check out Utropeia Ketchup if you want to listen to our recommendations for stuff that we're into. If you thought this podcast was interesting and you want to get some more source materials. But yeah, I have been your host, Ken Pumpkin, with my co-host, of course, Anna Cranberry.
Don't get caught up in it.
The crossfire.
There you go. It was a late one, but I had to do it.
It was really good.
I'm surprised we went this long with that one.
Remember, the hotter the fire gets, turns really cool because it's all blue.
That's right. Or green if there's a copper base.
It's true, science fact.
Ask Todd. He's a scientist. It's true.
Todd, you're a scientist.
Only of skeletons.
And
damn it, Ken. I'm a skeletologist, not a fireologist.
Dr.
why wasn't
Skeleton,
Bones the doctor a
PhD.
skeletologist from Star Trek? I am getting off tangent and off skeletons because next week we're going to be talking about deserts for the setting, and
Delicious.
I almost forgot it. Yes, very good. Because of Shanksgiving, eating a delicious dessert is a good way to bring it around. I said we weren't going to talk about it
I
anymore.
like it.
No,
Thanks,
I like it.
This MrYu video also signing off for the podcast. As well as, of course, our skeletologist, Todd Ogredose.
Backdraft joke.
Nice. And Chris Moonjump.
Gonna be a disco inferno.
Woo! Once again, thank you all for listening. And until we talk geek next week, Trope, you found what you looking for. Alrighty, bye-bye.
Bye.